Thank you for being here. Today, we're walking through Washington Local's Continuum of Services for Special Education. The goal is simple: to build a shared understanding so we can make consistent, student-centered decisions across our district. At the heart of this work is making sure every student receives the right level of support while remaining in the least restrictive environment. This helps us align both with best practice and with what's right for kids. Before we go further, it's important to ground ourselves in why this matters. This work ensures we are aligned with IDEA and Ohio operating standards, not just for compliance, but to protect and support our students. It promotes consistency across buildings, so all teams are making thoughtful, aligned decisions. It also helps clarify the difference between supports and placement, ensuring we're not jumping to a setting when stronger supports may meet a student's needs. Most importantly, it keeps our focus on ensuring students remain in their least restrictive environment, starting in general education with appropriate supports. This isn't about changing everything, it's about strengthening our shared understanding so we can continue making the best decisions for students. The most important idea today is this: the continuum reflects levels of support, not student ability, labels, or placement. It's designed to be flexible and responsive, meaning supports can increase or decrease based on what a student needs. These decisions are always grounded in individual student need, not a predetermined path. And just as importantly, this is not static. It changes over time as students grow, develop, and respond to instruction and support. Our goal is to ensure we are matching the right level of support to each student at the right time so they can be as successful and independent as possible. We always begin with general education. Students should learn alongside their non-disabled peers to the greatest extent appropriate. That's our starting point every time. From there, we focus on building the right supports within that environment to help students be successful. Moving to a more restrictive setting is not the first step. It's something we only consider when we've implemented supports and they are not sufficient. This keeps our focus on access, inclusion, and making thoughtful, team-based decisions. The goal is to ensure each student is in the setting that best meets their needs, while keeping them connected to their peers as much as possible. Specially designed instruction, or SDI, is not a place. It's how we teach. It's based on individual student need, aligned to IEP goals, and designed to ensure access to grade-level standards. SDI is about the strategies, supports, and intentional instruction we provide, not the setting where it happens. Because of that, it can occur in general education or special education environments. The focus is always on what the student needs to learn and how we deliver that instruction effectively. Keeping this distinction clear helps us make stronger decisions and ensures we are not equating support with location. In practice, SDI is what we do every day to support students in meaningful ways. It looks like explicit instruction, moving from modeling to guided practice to independence. It includes scaffolding supports, so students can access learning while building skills. It may involve adjusted pacing to meet students where they are, and providing immediate, specific feedback to guide progress. It also means using data to group students intentionally and respond to their needs. At its core, SDI is thoughtful and intentional. It's about how we deliver instruction to ensure each student can access and succeed with grade-level content. This framework helps us understand three key components: accommodations, modifications, and specially designed instruction. Accommodations change how students access learning without lowering expectations, things like extended time or supports. Modifications, on the other hand, change what a student is expected to learn by adjusting the content or standards. And SDI is how we teach. It's the intentional instruction designed to meet a student's individual needs and IEP goals. Understanding the difference between these is critical because it guides our decisions and ensures we are providing the right support in the right way for each student. This chart shows the full WLS continuum. You don't need to memorize it. Just remember, support increases in intensity as you move across, and students may receive support in more than one place. When reading the continuum, left to right represents increasing intensity of support. As you move across, the level of support becomes more targeted and intensive based on student need. It's important to remember that students are not fixed in one place. They may move between levels or receive supports across multiple levels at the same time. This is not a track or a label, and it does not represent a permanent placement. Instead, it's a flexible framework designed to respond to each student's needs over time. The goal is to provide the right support at the right level at the right time. These are the levels of support we offer across our district, ranging from inclusion to more intensive supports. It's important to remember that this reflects levels of support, not student ability. This example shows how the same skill, like reading, can be supported in different ways depending on student need. The goal itself does not change. What changes is how we support the student in reaching it. As needs increase, supports become more targeted and intensive. This helps us stay focused on providing the right support at the right time, while keeping expectations for learning consistent. One important thing to keep in mind as we look at these levels, regardless of the level of support, students are still expected to engage with grade-level standards and participate in state assessments. With very limited exceptions, students will take the Ohio State tests. That's why maintaining access to grade-level content is so important across all levels. The level of support may change, but our expectations for learning and opportunity to demonstrate that learning remain consistent. Services can happen in different locations, but what matters most is not where, it's how instruction is delivered. SDI can happen across all settings. This can include the general education classroom with targeted small group, academic support classroom, and a special education classroom. At this level, students remain in general education and receive supplemental small group instruction. This is the least restrictive option for students on IEPs, as they continue to access core instruction alongside their peers. The focus is on adding support, not changing the setting. SDI is delivered in small groups to target specific skill needs, often through explicit and scaffolded instruction. Students are still fully part of the general education environment, with supports layered in to help them succeed. This allows us to provide additional help while maintaining access, inclusion, and high expectations for learning. In small group instruction, students remain in the general education setting while receiving targeted SDI. Core instruction stays in place, and this support is supplemental. It's added to strengthen specific skill areas. The focus is on targeted academic or behavioral needs, often driven by IEP goals or data. Instruction is explicit and scaffolded, helping students build skills step by step. Because students stay in their general education environment, this remains a least restrictive approach, while still providing meaningful, intentional support. This is often one of our most effective ways to meet student needs without changing placement. In the academic support room, students may receive core instruction in a more specialized setting. This represents a more intensive level of support, where instruction is adjusted to meet individual learning needs. You'll see things like modified pacing, targeted skill development, and SDI that is closely aligned to standards and IEP goals. While the setting is different, the focus remains on maintaining access to grade-level content and supporting student progress. This level of support is used when needs cannot be fully met within the general education environment, even with supplemental supports in place. We consider this level of support when students are not making adequate progress with prior supports in place. Even with targeted and supplemental interventions, the student may continue to struggle and need something more intensive. This may also be appropriate when a student needs a smaller, more structured environment to support learning or behavior. At this point, the level of SDI increases to better match the student's needs. These decisions are made thoughtfully by the IEP team, using data and progress monitoring to ensure we are providing the right level of support at the right time. This represents a higher, more intensive level of support. In the Panther Intensive Learning Classroom, instruction focuses on foundational academics and functional skills based on each student's individual needs. Instruction is highly explicit, systematic, and driven by SDI and IEP goals. Students in this setting often require consistent, structured support throughout the day to access learning. While this is a more restrictive environment, the goal remains the same: to build skills, increase independence, and support student growth. Placement at this level is carefully considered by the IEP team when student needs cannot be met in less restrictive settings, even with significant supports in place. This setting is designed to support students who need more intensive support with regulation and executive functioning. The focus is on helping students develop the skills needed to access learning, things like managing emotions, staying engaged, and organizing their thinking. While the supports are more specialized, students are still working toward grade-level content, accessed through SDI that meets their individual needs. The goal is to remove barriers to learning by building regulation and access skills so students can engage more successfully across environments. Placement in this setting is considered when these needs significantly impact a student's ability to learn in less restrictive settings.
I want to pause and reinforce this because it truly drives every decision we make. We always begin in general education and consider how we can support the student successfully in that setting first. Movement to a more restrictive environment only happens after supports have been thoughtfully implemented and data shows they are not sufficient. This is not about preference or convenience, it is a legal requirement. Our role as a team is to ensure we are continually asking, what supports can we add, adjust, or strengthen before considering a change in setting? This keeps our focus on access, inclusion, and making the most appropriate decisions for each student. In practice, LRE is about a process, not a single decision. We start in general education as the foundation. From there, we layer supports intentionally, adjusting instruction, adding SDI, and using data to guide what's needed. We only consider a more restrictive setting when those supports have been implemented and are not sufficient. That's the threshold. And throughout all of this, our decisions must be clearly documented and grounded in student need. This keeps the focus where it belongs, on thoughtful, team-based decision-making that prioritizes access, inclusion, and the least restrictive option for each student. Before considering any change of placement, teams must clearly document the supports that have been attempted, including what was provided, how often, and by whom. Progress monitoring data should show how the student responded, and fidelity matters. Were supports implemented as intended? At the core, general education supports must be intentionally planned and in place first. All of this can be captured using the Change of Placement decision-making tool found in the WLS Hub. This tool brings everything together in one place to support the work teams are already doing, helping ensure decisions are thoughtful, consistent, and grounded in student need. We move a student only when the data clearly shows a lack of progress, even after supports have been implemented with fidelity. It's important that we know the supports were delivered as intended before making any decisions. At that point, we consider whether the student needs increased intensity of support. These decisions are never made in isolation. They are made collaboratively by the IEP team, using data, input, and a shared understanding of the student's needs. This ensures that any change in placement is thoughtful, appropriate, and truly driven by what the student needs to be successful. There are also clear situations where we do not move a student. We don't change placement as a temporary response to behavior alone without supporting data. We don't make decisions based on staffing limitations or convenience. Placement is also not about finding an easier environment. It must be based on student need, not setting preference. And most importantly, we don't move without data. Without clear evidence of progress monitoring and implementation, a change in placement is not appropriate. This keeps our decisions grounded, consistent, and focused on what is truly best for the student. Placement decisions are made by the IEP team, and that includes the parent as an equal member of that team. These decisions are based on data, student need, and thoughtful discussion. They are not determined by a specific program, a building, or staffing considerations. While those factors may exist, they do not drive the decision. The focus must always remain on what the student needs in order to access and make progress in their education.
This ensures that placement is individualized, appropriate, and aligned to both the law and the student's IEP. These are the key questions that should guide our thinking as a team. First, what is the specific skill gap? We want to clearly define the need. Next, what has already been tried? This helps us understand the supports that have been in place. Then, what does the data show? Our decisions should always be grounded in evidence. And finally, can we strengthen supports within general education first? These questions keep our focus on problem solving, not placement, and help ensure we are making thoughtful, data-driven decisions that prioritize the least restrictive environment. Movement across the continuum is flexible, not fixed. Students are not placed on a track, and they don't stay in one level indefinitely. They may move up or down based on their needs, and in some cases, receive supports across multiple levels at the same time. These decisions are always based on data, student progress, and ongoing review by the team. As students grow and respond to instruction, supports should adjust with them. The goal is to be responsive, to provide the right level of support at the right time, and to increase independence whenever possible. This slide highlights some common misconceptions we want to be mindful of. First, it's not about a specific room. Students need the right supports, not a location. Second, more restrictive does not mean better. It simply means more intensive support. And finally, when we hear they can't handle general education, our response should be to ask what supports we can put in place to help them be successful there first. These shifts in thinking keep us focused on student need, access, and the least restrictive environment, rather than defaulting to placement-based decisions.
Everyone plays an important role in supporting students across the continuum. General education teachers provide core instruction and implement accommodations to ensure access for all learners. Intervention specialists focus on delivering specially designed instruction and monitoring student progress to guide decisions. Paraprofessionals support access and help build independence, working alongside teachers to reinforce learning and support student needs. When these roles are clear and aligned, it strengthens our ability to provide consistent, effective support and ensure students receive what they need to be successful.
Data drives everything we do. When progress is evident, we continue with the current supports. If progress is slow, we adjust. This might mean changing strategies, increasing time, or refining instruction. And if there is little to no progress, we intensify supports to better meet the student's needs. This keeps our decisions responsive and focused on growth. It's not about guessing or reacting. It's about using clear evidence to guide next steps. When we consistently follow this process, we ensure students receive the right level of support at the right time. At the end of the day, this is our goal for every student. We want all students to have access to grade-level curriculum with the right level of support to be successful. At the same time, we want them to remain with their peers to the greatest extent possible. This is what drives our decisions across the continuum, balancing access, support, and inclusion. When we stay grounded in this goal, it helps ensure that every decision we make is centered on student growth, opportunity, and long-term success. These are the key ideas to carry forward. First, SDI is how we deliver instruction, not where it happens. Second, the continuum represents levels of support, not student ability. Third, LRE is always our starting point, not something we move away from too quickly. And finally, decisions are made by the IEP team, using data to guide us. When we keep these 4 ideas at the center, we stay focused on what matters most, providing the right support in the right place at the right time for every student. As you reflect on this, what feels clear? What might still need more clarity? And what support do you need moving forward? We also want you to know someone from the Student Services team will be coming out to your buildings. These visits are not evaluative. They are truly for discussion, to listen, and to support. We know this is important work, and we want to make sure you feel supported as you move forward. Thank you for your time today. And more importantly, thank you for the work you do every day for our students. We truly appreciate it.